that's when he is able to put Annie out of her misery, literally. Ha! You like that? You see what I did there? So, Misery is the book. The author is Stephen King. So, if you are unfamiliar with his work, he is a very, very popular New York best-time selling author. So, the book Misery, to make it short, you have a very famous author by the name of Paul Sheldon. He has a #1 fan who her name is Annie Wilkes. And the book basically describes how his #1 fan is a psychotic #1 fan. And it talks about his journey of basically being kidnapped and tortured in his #1 fan's house. So, if you think Misery is a book that you would love, you would enjoy because of the thriller and the twists and the turns and the suspense, I think you would enjoy my review of which one I think was better. If I think the book was better, if I think the movie was better. Also, I'm just going to discuss the differences. I'll discuss what I noticed in the book that was different from the movie, and vice versa, what was in the movie and what was different in the book. So I hope you like this book review / movie review, and stick around, stay tuned, and let's talk about Misery. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Shaw for short. It's my nickname that I like for all of my friends to call me. So if you're here and you stick around, we're friends now. Anyway, I am starting a new series on my channel called Book versus Movie. As you can see, today I will be reviewing Misery, both the book and the movie. So I thought this would be a fun series where I read books that have then been adapted to movies, and we just chit chat and we talk about which we thought was better. Did we like the book better or did we like the movie better? So if you are a book lover and you think that this is something that you might be into, and you would like to give me suggestions down in the comments of other books that have been adapted to movies that you think I would enjoy reading and also watching, please leave me a comment below of any of your suggestions. So at the end of this video, I'll also probably pick out what the next book versus movie that I'm going to do, but let's jump into it. So Misery is the book that I started off with. As you know, in Misery, the main characters are Annie Wilkes and Paul Sheldon. By the way, I have notes here. That's what I'm looking at. Paul Sheldon is a New York Times best-selling author. His #1 fan is Annie Wilkes. So I'm not going to go back and forth between what was in the book that was also in the movie because that would probably be a long-winded video. So instead, I think what I'm going to discuss is things that I thought was different, that I realized that was different. Whether it was something that was mentioned in the book that wasn't in the movie, or something that the movie did that the book didn't do. I also know that with movies, because it has to be a shorter adaptation of what the book is, I know that movies are going to be different than the book. I know that they can't include every single detail from the book. So I keep that in mind as well. So let's jump into it, like I said. So what I read in the book is that Annie had made Paul Sheldon drink water from a dirty mop bucket. Did not realize that. It was a case where she was going through one of her psychotic fits, and she literally made the man drink water out of a dirty mop bucket to take his medicine. I didn't realize that. Also in the book, it mentioned that she killed a rat with her bare hands. She brought one into the room where Paul was, showing it on the rat trap. She released it, held it in her hand, squished it, the blood dripping down, and then she licks her hand in the book version, right? The times that Paul snuck out the room, come to find out, Annie knew. And she noticed everything is what I wrote in bold caps. She noticed everything, which was wild to me. So I wrote that she noticed everything. That she would put like strands of her hair, like she put strands on the memory lane book that he was looking at. So that's how she knew apparently that he had been snooping around and looking, which I thought was wild. At that point I was like, okay, she is literally out of her mind. She is out of her mind, because who in their right mind has the time to take strands of their hair and place it ever so nicely and gently in a pattern that you will notice that what you put your strands of hair on has been messed with by the way that the seals of the hair have been broken. That is wild. That is crazy. Again, this is the book. This is what is mentioned in the book. Literally when I read that, I wrote, at that point I would have told Annie to just kill me. Literally, that's what I wrote. I would have just said, just unalive me at this point. Oh, also in the book, it mentions that Annie kills a young cop. So in the book version, yes, they notice his car. There's a missing report for Paul Sheldon because he's a famous author. They first send a young deputy cop out to her house. She kills the young deputy cop. So I said when Annie killed the young cop, I knew it was about to be a wrap, because you know that his fellow officers on shift that day knew he was going to her house. I knew more officers would come and question her, which did end up happening. They sent 2 more to the house, because now not only do you have a missing author, now you have a young deputy that they sent out there. He's gone and missing. And then it's all linked to you, Annie. Like, of course they're gonna come back. You killed this young cop. He didn't report back to this sheriff's station or wherever he was supposed to report back to. Don't you know that they were gonna come for you? But again, she's so crazy and deranged. That's not something that even comes across her mind. Again, this is the book side of it. It says, I wrote that if nothing would have happened right away and the officer had not been killed, I wonder if eventually the detectives would have questioned others in the nearby town, and they would have eventually questioned the lady who sold Annie the typewriter. So in the book, Annie goes and she purchases this used typewriter. So I'm saying if the young cop wasn't killed, would they have eventually led to question the lady that sold her the typewriter, and then the person who sold her the ream of paper that Paul preferred to type on? Because in the book, he expresses that there's a particular brand of paper that he prefers to type on because the one that she brought smudges. She flipped her shit when he said that. She got so mad and offended that he did not like that paper. These are my thoughts about the book. My thoughts are that the book is very much more detailed and descriptive on Annie and her craziness, which is true. Of course, books are usually better than the movie, but we shall see. But I did enjoy reading this book. That was when I finished reading the book. Now, I forgot to mention to you that I have seen Misery, the movie, several times before. I forgot to mention that. I have seen the movie several times before, but I have never read the book. Although I have seen the movie several times before, I have forgotten certain parts of it. So it was really, really good to have me just finish reading the book and then jump into the movie. So I really like that I did it that way. So those were my thoughts on the book. These are my thoughts on the movie. Annie knew he was staying at the cottage, the lodge hotel thing, because she said that everyone in town knew he frequented there whenever he was writing a book. So in the movie, she knew he was there. In the movie, she mentioned she would watch him. So I'm like, okay, she was stalking him. Then it says that, so I talk about how she says that she was watching him. Also in the movie, the main sheriff is an older man and his wife is the secretary. That's like a comedic side to the film because there's some really funny stuff stuff between the sheriff and his secretary, which is the wife. I thought they were very funny. Paul is really worried about calling his daughter. So when Paul comes to and he's in Annie's house and he's in the bedroom, and she's explaining to him how long he was out, the storm, yada yada yada. He was very concerned about calling his daughter. And then, you know, Annie lies and says, oh, he's not going to be able to make a phone call, which she also did do that in the book. But I just realized that Paul was really, really worried about contacting his daughter. Let's see. In the movie, the manuscript that Annie makes Paul burn is shown as it being untitled. In the book, he did have a title for that book. It was going to be called Fast Cars, for the title of that book. I think in the book, though, I think they spent a little bit more time explaining what his book Fast Cars was about, because it was totally different than his novel series of Misery that he was writing. In the movie, it was a helicopter search for him. The agent called the local police. That's why they did a helicopter search. Also in the movie adaptation, after he had to burn the untitled manuscript, he placed the dosage of the Norville pills, because she was giving him Norville pills, under the mattress. In the book, it took him a while to stop taking them, or he started to ease up with taking them, because he realized he was becoming addicted. And when he snuck out and found the box of them in the closet in the bathroom, he saw it, and he saw that it had codeine in it, which was mentioned in the book. So I did notice that in the book, they described Paul more vividly with his addiction, because he was definitely becoming addicted to the medicine that Annie was giving him. In the movie adaptation, it didn't show him as being like addicted to the medicine, but it did show him, you know, starting to not take the medicine. Also about the movie, he made a slit on the side of the mattress and placed the Norville pills inside of the slit. In the book, they made it seem as though he was just literally just like, he's confined to the bed and he was just taking his hand and just sliding it underneath there. I feel like in the movie, he was shown hiding the pills a whole lot better. Also with the movie, Paul empties some of the powder in the movie, he empties the powder from the capsules into like a makeshift paper bowl that he made. I noticed that. In the book, it mentioned nothing of him doing that. Also with the movie, Paul invites Annie to have dinner with him. This is the day she rereads his rewrite of Misery's Return. So he is extending the invitation for dinner in the movie adaptation of this book. Also in the movie, Paul asks for candles. When she leaves to get some, Paul pours the powder from the capsules into her glass of wine. Annie then brings back the candles, and then she accidentally knocks over her glass of wine. I don't believe she really did that on accident. I think Annie, in the book version, Annie was crazy but aware. Like crazy but aware. That's why when I said in the book, when she expressed to him that she knew all the times that he had snuck out the room, she was crazy but smart. So I know good and well she knocked over that glass of wine on purpose. Because of how they describes her in the book, she was very smart and with it. She knew that he had done something with that glass of wine. Also in the movie, when she's going through what I think is a psychotic episode, she leaves, but it doesn't mention her calling where she's going as her laughing place. In the book, she refers to it as her laughing place that she goes to. Also in the movie, one day Annie is outside of the sheriff's station window. Annie is blowing her horn. She's having like a road rage at the moment. The sheriff happens to look outside his window and he sees that it's Annie, and she's like fussing out the window, calling the person a cock-a-doodle-doo. Then after you see, you know, that scene, it shows the sheriff in the library. And the reason why he's in the library, it shows him looking up a past case with not Misery. It shows him looking up a past case dealing with Annie. Now, I'm glad they kind of set it up that way, because otherwise, had that scene of him seeing her yell, having road rage, I would have thought, well, what made him look at her in the first place to be a suspect in Paul's missing case, you know? But because she did that little tidbit, and because already from the book, the town already knew kind of what her story was. So I guess when he saw her acting a fool over a road rage that really shouldn't have been a big deal, I guess maybe that made him think, let me look into her. He does look into her. He does end up seeing the previous cases where she was on trial for infant baby deaths at a local hospital. Because when the sheriff is looking through these library archive articles, he sees a quote. Now, I'm gonna read to you what the quote is. The quote that Annie says in the newspaper article, why did I just lose my spot? Okay, here it goes. So here's the quote. There is a justice higher than that of man. I will be judged by him. So prior to that scene of the sheriff going to the library, looking up Annie's case, they showed him in the bed with his wife. He had brought like a whole stack of Paul Sheldon books, which is the Misery series. He started reading the Misery series, which I wonder what made him want to start reading his books. I don't know. But anyway, he starts reading the books. And one of the Misery series books, he highlights that very comment. There is a justice higher than that of man. I will be judged by him. I'm sorry. He highlights that sentence in the book. Fast forward to when he's in the library and he's looking through the archives and he sees that Annie made that same exact quote from Paul's book. Immediately, he heads to Annie's house, right? Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Before he heads to Annie's house, the sheriff goes to the local store and he asks the shop owner if he's received any new books, any new Misery books. He said yes. The sheriff asks if he has sold any. The man says yes. Annie always has him put a first copy aside. The sheriff then asks, what does she buy anything odd? The shop owner says nothing out the usual except she brought paper. The sheriff asks what type of paper. The shop owner says typing paper. The sheriff heads immediately to Annie's house. Now, if you recall, when I was giving you my notes on the book, I said to you that if she had not killed that young cop, I wonder if it would have eventually led them to the shop where the lady sold her the typewriter and to where she got the paper. I see in the movie version, they sort of kind of did add that piece in because they didn't in the book, but I was wondering, like, wouldn't they have gone back and questioned them? So in the movie, he does go back. He does ask the shop owner about that. He goes immediately to Annie's. The sheriff is outside. He's talking to Annie, you know. She invites him in. He goes upstairs because he's snooping around. He decides to leave. As he's heading out, he hears something. The sheriff turns around because at this point, Annie is not near the front door anymore. The sheriff turns back around, walks back into the house, and he hears Paul saying, in here. The sheriff opens up the door to the basement, and then Annie walks up behind him and shoots the sheriff in the back. Then in the movie, Annie tells Paul how he celebrates when he finishes a book. In the book version, Paul tells Annie that when he gets to the last chapter of Misery's Return, that he's gonna want cigarettes. He's gonna want 1 cigarette, matches, and a bottle of Dom Perignon. In the movie adaptation, Annie tells Paul that she knows that that's what he's gonna want because he's near the end of writing the book. And then of course, you know, that's when he is able to put Annie out of her misery, literally. Ha! You like that? You see what I did there? He puts Annie out of her misery. So, oh, also another difference in the movie is that Paul is then at the restaurant with his agent. His new book is titled The Higher Education. And that's when he's sitting at the restaurant with his agent. His agent does suggest that maybe he should write about his encounter in the house with Annie. Then he says, basically, he's like, he's not into that. A waitress then is coming around. Paul is hallucinating because he thinks it's Annie, but it's not Annie. The waitress walks up and says, "Hi, are you Paul Sheldon?" He goes, "Yes." And she goes, "I'm your #1 fan." And then, and scene. It's done. So that is my review of what was different between the book Misery and the movie Misery. Overall, I think I give the book 10 out of 10 and I give the movie 10 out of 10. I'm gonna be biased because I really loved the movie, and then when I read the book, I really enjoyed the book as well. The book is way more descriptive in Annie and her psychotic episodes that she has. Also, the book is more descriptive in Paul and the flashbacks that he's having, which is also due to probably the addiction that he's forming with the drugs that he's giving her. What else? Yeah, so if you are into a good suspense, I would put categories that as a suspense thriller type book, then I highly recommend Misery. I give it a 10 out of 10. Real quick before I end this video. Okay, I'm in the middle of editing this video, so I just wanted to add this tidbit in. What I recommend in the case of book versus movie of Misery is that I would suggest you read the book first, because there are a lot of things that make more sense when you see the movie version. I think the book lays out, again, like I said, a greater detailed picture of Annie. I think it also does a great job of explaining how Paul is going back and forth with his addiction because he becomes addicted to the medicine that Annie is giving him. I think if you read the book, you might agree with me that there are a lot of parts to the movie that made more sense to me simply because I had read the book. But that's just my little tidbit I wanted to add in there. I made a list of books that have been adapted to movies that I could brainstorm and think of. As of right now, if you look, this is one part of the list, and then this is the back of the list. I don't know. What book do you suggest I do next? Because this is the very first video and I'm not sure what type of engagement I'm gonna get on this video, I'm gonna choose the next book, but hopefully this series really takes off and I would love to hear what others suggest for me to read. So I guess should we do Jaws since it's summer, or should we do Carrie? The reason why I say Carrie is because they're coming up with a television series for Carrie. So, I don't know. What do you think? Or should we do 50 Shades of Grey? Let's do 50 Shades of Grey. That's going to be the next book versus movie. It's going to be 50 Shades of Grey. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. I hope you watched it all the way through. Again, if you are interested in this series and you want to be a part of BookTube, I don't even know if BookTube is a thing. You know how they have Book Talk? I'm guessing BookTube. Anyway, if you like this series, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next book versus movie. Bye.